is happening, everybody? Thanks for checking out today's video. We have a new bike today. This is the Poseidon X gravel bike. We're gonna be diving in, giving you some specs breakdowns of this bike and show you what it's capable of doing out here on the gravel. And we got a bunch of different roads and trails that we can go down to kind of put this thing to the test and show you what you're getting if you were to purchase this thing. But overall, for an entry-level gravel bike, guys, this thing has a lot of different features that it comes with for a super low price. And if you're looking at getting into gravel for the first time, you're not gonna have to break the bank to do that. So please come along with me. We're gonna show you what this thing can do, what it's capable of, and we're gonna give you a specs breakdown. All right, let's check this thing out. First up, let's talk about this frame. The frame is a 6061 double-butted hydroformed alloy aluminum frame. This thing is really lightweight. It has some awesome looking curvatures to it, and overall the welds are just super well done. You can see, like, this almost looks like it could be carbon fiber. There is zero indications that that's actually a weld. Looks really well put together, and it's just really nice. The graphics are actually, I guess, probably a sticker, but it has been coated over, so that is not going to peel off at all. And really nice Poseidon logo there. It's got the X branding right there, and then just a little sticker down there indicating what size frame this is, and that sticker is actually peeling off. So they didn't go through and actually epoxy that down or whatever they do to actually coat that down to where it's not going to peel off. But the frame overall looks really good. This does have a tapered head tube, so if you're looking to upgrade the fork in the future, this is gonna be super easy to do because it does have that tapered head tube. And just overall, frame looks really nice. We're not gonna go over all the specs and sizing and all of that, but the frame, I think, is gonna be what you're looking for if you're just getting into gravel biking. Like we said, full carbon fork, tapered from 1 1/8 down to 1 1/2 inch. Pretty standard there. The fork does absorb bumps and the ruts and things pretty well. I mean, I guess as good as you can for a carbon fork. It's no suspension to it, so it's just going to be dampening vibrations pretty much. Okay, moving into the shifters, this does have the Advent X micro shift, group set, and brake set. So these actually work very good as far as shifting. Now when it comes to the braking, we'll talk about that in a second, not so good. But the shifting is superb. Honestly, some of the best I've seen out of a sub $1,000 bike. It just gets the job done. And they look pretty good too. Now, the handle itself is an alloy, but up here it is a plastic. So I haven't had any issues so far, but this is what you're gonna get with this bike, and it does work. So you shift up here, you shift down with this, and it just works. 10 speeds total. So we do have a 10-speed cassette on the rear of this thing, and then a 1x set here. So you just have one chain ring up front. This is a 38 tooth chain ring up front, and this thing gets the job done for what I use it for, just regular gravel stuff, some light road use, and I use this as a commuter bike too, and it does really good for that. The rear derailleur is a microshift Advent 10x with the speed clutch. So this is clutch operated. So that's perfect for gravel use. That way, if you're going to cross really rough terrain, this derailleur isn't going to be allowing the chain to slap off the frame and things like that. So you can just actuate it right here with just a little flip of a switch. There we go. So it is a very positive click there. So it's not gonna, you know, just undo itself all of a sudden. So there you go, locks it in, then unlocks it. That way you can see there. But it does have a lot of tension to begin with, so pretty cool. I've been very impressed by this Advent X microshift that this Poseidon X has. Moving to the cranks. The cranks, not a huge fan of these Pro Wheel cranks, but they are 170 mil cranks, and like I said, 38 tooth narrow wide chain ring. And the chain ring isn't bad, but the bottom bracket here is just a standard square tapered bottom bracket, so not a huge fan of that. And then also, you may be able to hear it from the rod clips here, but this thing creaks, cracks, pops, makes all kinds of rackets. So one of the upgrades that we're going to do first is probably install like a Shimano Hollowtech bottom bracket to this. Really get some nicer bearings in there, and overall just smooth this thing out a little bit, because this is one of the weak points of this bike, is that bottom bracket and crankset. So if you want to see that, please subscribe to the channel. That way you can see that upgrade build on this bike. Okay, the chain is a KMC 10-speed chain. Hey, it works pretty good. No need to upgrade that. I guess I should have mentioned it with the bottom bracket. It is a 68mm English threaded square tapered bottom bracket. So it is very easy to upgrade this thing with English threading. Okay, back here, the micro shift cassette is an 11 to 48 tooth Advent X speed cassette. Okay, it gets the job done. Looks good. Haven't had any issues with that at all. I think it's gonna work out really good for us. Okay, going back up to the shifters. Once again, the shifters are the micro shift Advent X. And the front brake, you know, it would work okay, I guess, if, look at that, there's no disc. So when the box was opened up, you know, it looked okay. But after installing the front wheel, the front disc was bent a little bit, kind of warped in a way, so I could not get it tuned out. So I reached out to Poseidon Bikes, and they said that, you know, this happens a lot in their shipping, and it's probably the UPS man or whatever just kind of laid this over on its side, and it kind of bent that front disc. But honestly, the brakes on this bike, they suck, honestly. Just to be blunt about it, they are awful. Even when you get down into the drops and really get a lot of leverage on the levers, they still suck really bad. And these are the Tektro branded brakes, and they just don't work too good. I've had a lot of mechanical disc brakes. Like I said, these are not hydraulic. Mechanical disc brakes, it keeps the cost low, but these things are just awful. So also another one of the weak points, we're going to be upgrading this very quickly. So there's a lot of builds out there that do the compressionless brake housing, and they just go through and replace this brake housing here to something that allows that cable to really get some force behind it and clamp those brakes down. So that's going to be one of the upgrades we're going to be doing, so please stay tuned for that. But yeah, that should enhance the braking capabilities of this bike quite a bit. But that is honestly one of the only downfalls of this bike, is the brakes. The discs, well, if this one had one, like I said, it is on the way, but I just took it off so I could still ride this thing around. And honestly, I've been doing a great job of just being able to get this thing out. It hasn't stopped me, to say the least. But these are 160 mil rotors, and yeah, they get the job done. These do just have a quick release skewer, so no through axle on these bikes. But Poseidon does sell a through axle conversion kit for this bike. So if you already have a wheel set that can run a through axle, go ahead and buy that kit. I think it's like 170 bucks, and you get replacement parts back here to convert this to a through axle. And then you can also buy the fork, which comes in the kit. I think it's like 170 bucks for all of it, and it has a through axle conversion down here where it's just set up to run a through axle. So pretty cheap there, 170 bucks to convert this over to getting very nice wheel sets and that stiffness of the through axle. So that's also probably going to be one of the upgrades we're going to be doing. I haven't decided yet if we're going to actually do that. And if we do, we'll probably go ahead and get the Mason Hunt wheel set to go with this and wrap it with some new tires. Let's look at these handlebars. So the handlebars are Poseidon branded adventure bars, 31.8 diameter, 46 centimeters wide with a 24-degree flare. And you can see right there, most gravel bikes are coming with this now, but it does have a very big flare to it right there. It's not like a normal road bike where the drops just go straight down. This is flared out to give you a little bit more stability when you're doing some off-road stuff, very technical trails and things like that, you're gonna have more stability, more control over this bike. So that is pretty cool right there. It's coming in at a very low price for what you get. And the grips that these are wrapped with, man, I like this. This is very nice, comfortable. Haven't had any issues with it slipping or tearing or wearing down. And like I said, it's only been 2 months, but this thing is just, it's almost like I haven't even used this thing. The hoods feel good. You know, they're nice and comfortable. And I don't even ride with cycling gloves that much, and I haven't really had any issues with the hoods, you know, having any kind of hot spot or anything like that. And then the drops also feel really good with that flare. And honestly, I've heard a lot of people say they can't really brake with position on the hoods here, but that's how I normally ride this. I don't ride this bike in the drops that much, so I'll just ride it up here on the hoods, and I'm still able to brake enough to actually get by without, you know, hurting myself too bad by not being able to apply the brakes. So they do work, but that compressionless brake housing should do the trick. Like most bikes, to keep the price down, they do have their own branding, just like the bars. So the Seatpost is also a Poseidon branded 27.2 inch Seatpost, and I am pretty short. This is a medium frame bike, but I'm pretty short. That's why the saddle is so low on this, because the reach from the saddle down to the pedals, it's a pretty good distance. You see how that down tube is, or that seat tube goes down a long ways, and that's due to the bottom bracket being so low on this bike. I would assume that being a gravel variant bike, they would have probably raised that bottom bracket a little bit, but not the case on this bike. But the Seatpost is really nice. I kind of like the design of it. It's just got the 1-bolt design under here. That way you can change the tilt and everything just by this 1 bolt. You don't have to have these 2 that you can adjust the forward and back and all that. And then obviously the same bolt can move the seat forward and back. But I really like this Seatpost. I was going to change it to a carbon fiber Seatpost, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to actually leave this one. The bike, for what you pay for this bike, it only comes in at about 24 pounds with a medium frame. The website says for a large frame, it comes in at 25 pounds. And for me, you know, spending less than $1,000 for this bike, that is just perfect. And I'll just tell you right now, I'm active duty military. They do have a military discount at Poseidon Bikes. And I can't remember what it was. I think it was 5%, 5 to 10%. And I got this thing in the $600 range, about $650 versus the $700 and some. So just a little plug right there. If you're military or you qualify for that military discount, go ahead and hit up Poseidon Bikes. Right, you can get you a good deal on this bike. Okay, so this saddle is, once again, a Poseidon branded saddle, and it does have some issues. Something in there is kind of loose. It's not well put together, in my opinion. So this is another one of the flaws of this bike. But this thing isn't that uncomfortable. I've been using it for commuting and things like that, and just overall fitness bike stuff. But this is going to be another one of the things that I'm swapping out. Actually, I already have another saddle I'm putting on it. That's going to be the very first step that we do for an upgrade video. We're going to be throwing a saddle on this, as well as probably the compressionless brake housing. That'll be the first stage of the build. But yeah, replace the saddle, and I think you'll be way happier with this bike, because it does rattle on the road. Every time you hit a bump or something, that thing is rattling like crazy. The pedals, these are not the pedals that come with this bike. They are just plastic, I don't even know, just regular platform pedals. I swapped these out for some pedals that came with my mountain bike, and I think these are a way better upgrade. But we are going to be actually moving to some clipless pedals. That is going to be one of the stage builds as well. It's probably going to be like stage 3, where we actually go through and get some new clipless pedals for this. But for overall using this as a commuter bike or a fitness bike, these pedals will get you by just standard mountain bike pedals. These right here are going to give you plenty of grip and things to stay on the actual platform of this pedal. but they just work. I'm not having to worry about clipping in, clipping out, things like that. If I were to get in some technical stuff on the gravel here, or doing some light off-road stuff, I can get off the bike pretty easy. There's lots of mounts for bottle racks, bottle holders. Man, there's a ton of them. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here on the other side, and then you have a rack mount back here that you can actually mount to, so it's got connection points for that. The stem, yeah, in my opinion, it's a little long, but I can't find the exact measurements on this. It does have a nice alignment system up here on the bars to actually center that up how you want to on that stem, and overall it's not bad. It does have a pretty cool little center cap here, little headset cap, but it is sideways. I was looking at other bikes, I thought this might be kind of how it is, but I don't know, just the little fine details like that, I think they could have probably worked on a little bit. I know this is like a small gripe and complaint, but yeah, that's definitely not centered out on the bike. But hey, I ain't worried about that. That's okay. It does come with a couple different spacers here, so if you're looking to drop these bars down just a little bit and maybe adjust them up here, you got room to do that. And you know, I haven't found a need for that. I kind of like to ride this in a pretty upright position where I'm commuting on it. I like to be able to look up a little bit better and then, you know, fully bent over like in a road bike style position. But yeah, this works. And moving down into the wheel set, we do have the Kenda small block tires, which have been performing very well. They have a really nice tread pattern to them. You can see let me flip, small block. It's funny, I feel like we're talking about a motor coming out of a Chevy truck or something when we're talking about these Kenda small block 8s. Hey, we're not talking about engines, we're talking about tires. But it does have a really close pattern, and these are pretty aggressive on the road. They actually make a lot of road noise. So if you do plan on doing a lot of road stuff, this may be an upgrade in the future. Or if you just kind of can get over that aggressive road noise that these put off, then you're gonna be just fine. But they do provide a ton of grip out here on the gravel and stuff. So it does what it's designed to do as a gravel bike really well. So these are double wall alloyed rims. I'm guessing just Poseidon branded, but they look pretty good. The spokes look pretty well done. This is a Presta valve compatible, if you're wondering, but these rims are not designed to run tubeless. So if you're going to be doing the tubeless gig, you're actually going to have to upgrade the wheel set to allow for that. So the hubs, I can't find any specs on the hubs, but they do have like little dust covers in there. That's pretty nice to kind of keep the dust out from riding down the gravel roads and things. But just standard hubs, or nothing special. I think they may have cartridge bearings, but I may be wrong. I'm not too worried about switching these out. Like I said, if I do upgrade this, we're going to be going to the Hunt and Mason gravel bike wheel set, and probably be like stage 3 or 4 if we do that.
Ended up taking this wheel set and weighing it, almost 10 pounds. That is crazy. That is almost half the weight of this bike. That is just nuts.
I just noticed we got 6 bottle mounts. There's one hiding under the frame there. So if you're into carrying a bunch of bottles, there you go. All right, so that's kind of all the specs we're gonna go over. Like I said, I don't get too technical with it. We're just gonna put this thing to the test on the actual road and the gravel. We'll do some best of both worlds, so to speak. But like I said, where this thing shines is, like, if you're looking to get like a fitness bike or something like that, or a commuter bike, this is gonna be great for that person that's gonna be riding the road, maybe some light trails like this. It's gonna be perfect for that person, and it's at a low price point. You're not gonna have to go out there and spend a lot. If you're looking to get into gravel biking for the first time, this bike is gonna be great for you as well, because you're not gonna have to spend a lot of money to get into the sport, to try it out, and this bike is gonna be perfect for you as well. All right, guys, let's go do some riding with this bike and show you what this thing can do. will say this thing does very good on the gravel. I mean, it handles like a road bike does on the road. This thing just kind of stays planted with these Kenda small block tires. Really does good on the gravel. This carbon fiber fork, you know, it does soak up some of the bumps and stuff. All right, let me get through these ruts. Like, that is pretty darn rough. But that fork did help out some, and these kind of small block tires, where they are a little bit beefier than a normal road tire, did work pretty good. But at the end of the day, this thing is really suited for very light gravel and road. And it's kind of not like the Redwood is. The Redwood is more of a crossover kind of into the mountain biking world. It's got the really big mountain bike tires, whereas this one does not. But hey, we're still gonna put it to the test on some crazy stuff. All right, we're doing that little ascent pretty good. That I'm cornering pretty hard. And these Kenda small block tires are just biting in. There was like no slippage back there. I didn't feel like the bike was gonna slide out from under me. Just a really stable feel to it. All right, we're gonna get some speed on this long straight right here. Wow, this is like where this bike shines. It's just kind of like where I feel this thing lives, should be at home. Right here on this like loose dirt, kind of hard packed gravel. Yeah, and the gear range is good for this. Now, I haven't found myself running out of gears yet, and if I did, it's pretty easy to change out this 1x front chainring. Whew. That's a little bumpy, I will say. But let me see if I can go up to the highest gear. Okay, we're in the highest gear now. And I still have some room to gain speed. But you could always go up to, you know, a 40 or 42 tooth front chainring, or even higher. Kind of spread out that gear ratio. Honestly, at this price range, I don't know if I've ever seen a drivetrain shift so smoothly. Like up and down, this thing is just flawless. And I haven't even tuned these things in yet. Like it's almost, you almost can't even hear that you're shifting up. It's that smooth. If you just barely touch it with your finger and it's shifting. There's no lag in the gears. There's no loud noises, creaking, cracking, all that. It does what it's supposed to do, which I was kind of surprised by the Advent X system. I wasn't sure if it was going to shift like some of my other higher end bikes. You know, I love my Vior system. It's on my mountain bike. But honestly, this thing shifts way smoother than that thing does. And I haven't even tuned on this at all. It is that good. I was very, very surprised. So that's one of the biggest positives of this bike. All right, we're gonna go up this little hill down here. See how this thing shifts down to accommodate for the hill. Oh yeah. There's like no delay in the gearing whatsoever. All right, we're gonna slow down and go through all the gears all the way up, then we'll slow down and go all the way down. Okay, we're all the way down right now. very low gear. So first is really low. That way, if you're climbing up some super technical stuff or a really long hill, you can kind of do it. So we're gonna start gaining speed, going through these gears. There we go, and it's just digging in. All right, and that's all the way to the top gear. This thing does have 10 speeds, which if you're just gonna be doing gravel like this, I think you're gonna be fine. If you're gonna be turning this into like more of a road bike style, then I would go ahead and probably try to upgrade that front chain ring to something a little bit, with a little bit more teeth on it. It's gonna give you a little bit more top end, because the bottom end's fine. So I don't think you're gonna have to change out the cassette, just the front chain ring. All right, let's shift down as we're braking. And what is cool with this 1x drivetrain is you only have to deal with the right side here. You're not worried about your left hand doing anything really. All right, let's go off this. That was like loose sand, but it still did fine. It does through some of this rougher stuff. Okay. Sand, obviously the skinny tire wants to kind of sink down in it because there's no surface area. It's not too bad. Definitely not as bad as a road tire would be. Yeah, this thing does pretty awesome on the road. I almost can't believe that it's not a full road bike. This thing just does so good. Doesn't look like we're gonna get a green light. All right, pretty good on the takeoff too. Yeah, so when I'm commuting to work, this is the route I have to take. And it's not too far, it's about 2 miles. But it's a pretty nice ride. It's a pretty good incline here. And the weight of this bike only being around 24 pounds, it really helps you get up these hills. We'll go over some of my final impressions of this bike, and we'll start out with, I don't think you can buy another bike better than this for a gravel bike under $1,000. This thing is solid with the components you get. I don't think you can go wrong. The Advent X 10-speed micro shift derailleur and the shift system that this thing has, it's just unbeatable, I believe, at this price. Like I said, this thing shifts better than my Dior set that I have on my mountain bike. And that's a $2,000 bike. This thing is just way smoother, shifting up and down. And that was just right out of the box. I haven't even tuned on this thing yet because I didn't have to. Poseidon Bikes actually shipped this thing out fully set up. So that's something you're not gonna have to worry about when you get this bike from them. The next thing that I really like is the frame design. This hydroformed frame definitely has the curvatures that are gonna soak up bumps out here on the gravel, soak up all this rough stuff. and it's just a really nice frame for the money that you pay for it. And this thing has a carbon fiber fork and tapered head tube. It's a tapered steer fork. So those right there are awesome upgrades. And the tapered head tube is going to allow you to upgrade to any type of tapered steer carbon fork that you would like to put on this thing. So this bike is very upgradable. Everything on it allows you to upgrade. So it's not like buying a budget bike that you just can't work with and upgrade. This has it. This has all those options. The next thing I really like on this bike are the bars. The bars coming set up with that flared out drop on it is really nice. That's going to give you a lot of that stability out on the off-road stuff. Even though this bike is suited more for the road or light gravel trails, it's still going to give you a little bit more stability when you're looking for it. That was pretty much the positives, and there's a lot more than that. That is just some of the big ones. Now, some of the negatives of this bike is definitely going to be the brakes. Like I said, even if I had a front brake right now, which I don't have a front rotor, this thing would still not be able to stop that well. These Tektro brakes are just lacking in a lot of spots. They just don't bite down like you would hope they would. Definitely not like hydraulic or even some other mechanical disc brakes that I've had in the past. This just does not bite in. So look for the upgrade video we're going to be doing with the compressionless brake housing on this. It's going to allow the brakes to work quite a bit better, just based on what I've seen and what I've done in the past. Okay, the next thing that is kind of a negative in my opinion, especially with the money you pay for this thing, is that square taper bottom bracket. You know, I'm pretty sure they could squeeze in a little bit better of a bottom bracket and crank set with this bike for what you pay for it. Granted, this isn't a deal breaker, but it wasn't too well refined. It did a lot of cracking, creaking. I'm sure you can't hear it right now because of the wind and the road noise, but that bottom bracket, I would definitely change it out. It's not really the cranks, it's the bottom bracket itself. But we're definitely gonna be upgrading that. The next negative is the saddle. The saddle was just very cheaply made. Like I said, it wasn't that uncomfortable. It was just very loud. It vibrated on the road because I don't know, something was like undone under it or something. I don't know. It just wasn't glued together good, I guess. And the shape was really weird. So definitely that's going to be probably one of the first things I upgrade on this bike is actually the saddle. And I get it, that's personal preference. Everybody's got like a different saddle and pedals. So we're not even going to talk about the pedals that come with this bike because I didn't even do the review with the pedals on because they're just garbage.
All right, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please stick around, subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you join the channel. That way you can see more builds just like this, or that way you can see more bikes like this, and you can see the builds that I'm going to be doing to this bike. All right, guys, I'll catch you in those next videos.